Because there's no doubt in my mind that he pulled that trigger and that gun didn't fly out of his hand. He relaxed.
How is that?
It went to the side.
He just went down like
He's
this.
laying flat on the ground. He's laying on the ground with that gun here. When he pulls the trigger, his hand just goes back. Instead of the gun blowing out, like you know, that's not going to happen. When he pulls the trigger, he just falls to the side.
Well, the gun would recoil backwards. So if he had the gun facing him, guys, the gun's going to go away from him.
Contact wound, all that gases and stuff went in. If you see his head, it was a banana. It just all the gases went in.
No doubt. A guy told us that he pulled a man over with 3 other people in a truck. Just so happened that evening a truck was stolen out of Somerset. Just so happened that was stolen out of Somerset. He comes down through here speeding. The truck driver sees him turn and go back after a while later. This is where they find his vehicle at. Person told us, said they reported it 36 years ago.
Yeah. You know,
Bob Foley told him.
Yeah.
You can't believe anything back.
I can believe that faster than I can that he held a .357 Magnum and it went with his hand rather than away with the recoil.
It could be in some situations, but in this situation, I'm telling you.
No situation's the same, you know that.
I understand that. That's what we're debating. I love this. You guys are.
But he was laying in the ditch line. Laid himself
And his head was lower than his body.
This person told us that when the guy got out, that Johnny knew him. That explains why maybe he didn't put his hat on, if this is true. See, you got to be open-minded. Like you said, let's agree to disagree. Let's say that happened. And they said a man come around the side of the truck with a shotgun and held it while he took his gun. You're saying it was a contact wound. It would be a contact wound if he just come up there with his pistol. That would be a
McCoy,
contact wound.
Let me ask you this. You were a police officer. We were police officers. How many troopers or officers you work with would lay down that distance?
I don't even know that. I don't know that a suicide person would lay down on a wet road or a damp road.
And let me finish this. He lay down his back, and that gun placed against his forehead. I think if he was even doing that, he'd be trying to squirm and get away. It was a direct contact.
Direct contact.
They was Johnny. Listen, I know Johnny. Johnny wouldn't lay down that ditch line for nobody.
No.
They might have shot him in the rear end.
No. He wouldn't have laid down.
Why? Because if you're trying to do a traffic stop and you're trying to make it look like you're running over there, why would you lay down? Why would you just...
I don't think he saw it.
Maybe he didn't see it.
There's so many questions.
It's another thing. Maybe he thought like you thought. Maybe he thought that gun was going to fly out of his hand. If the gun had flew out of his hand, it had been a horse of different gun.
We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Suicide.
You know, everybody would be saying homicide. We would be saying homicide.
Right.
Yeah.
I think if you guys, I think that's why, in our opinion, we think in our opinion that's why people. I think first of all, it's somebody that like you. We know how rumors are. We know just like the rumor on Lewis that Bob Foley put in the newspaper, that the newspaper printed. And if that's not true, that's totally. But we all know how that can go. You guys not even. You know, Sheila and I we're going to look at it both ways. We're open-minded.
Right.
You guys are not. You guys are so set on suicide that I think a lot of people.
Listen, we lived this thing for 38 plus years, and we look at it every angle. Suicide. Even though we felt suicide, that investigation continued on for years. They looked at every angle, done all kinds of things. So it's not like, suicide, we're shutting the door. It kept going.
If they put if the state police would take all the detectives, take the still the people living today, put all of us in a room, let's lay all the evidence out, everything
Jimmy,
out.
All living today, we're missing the 3 main players. The Vincent DeMayo.
The main
George
player
Nichols.
is Dr. Hunsaker.
No, that's a rookie. Would you trust a rookie more than you would this man showing up to back you up?
Dr. Hunsaker, listen,
he was probably the sharpest guy we ever dealt with as far as doing autopsies.
I understand.
And if you listen to him and the pressure that they put on him to change his report is just.
But he had 3 guys that are now deceased. The only 3 that disagreed with Hunsaker are now dead.
Well, the one guy in Texas now, he even said he felt like it was suicide, but since he was a police officer, he would give you the benefit of the doubt.
And he said that. Yeah. But you know, Jimmy, we got to have something in writing.
Well,
people can say,
it's not in a perfect world.
These people are dead. Asher says that, Lovett says, Lyle says, this one, well, he don't say who says, he just says higher ups.
Right.
But some of these guys are dead. They can't come back.
Yeah, and you know what? If we were dead today, we would be laying on our
and that's why we need to get this solved before you guys go.
You're not going to get the state police to do it. They're not going to do it. And I appreciate what you guys are doing. The state police will never do it. They do not want you all to see the evidence.
They'll never close the case, because if they ever close the case, then you can file open record report and you can get everything.
Exactly.
But it's going to stay unstopped homicide.
If we had everything and you guys had these people out here, I would love to see the FBI equivocal examination. If the FBI says that, then that's something you can definitely look at. You can put some trust in it. You know, I don't trust any law enforcement agency anymore. Things
are getting bad. No integrity. And
you won't believe this. We'll probably cut this. You won't believe the report we got. I'm still fighting with them. They won't even. They said the truth.
I like your shirt.
They said I like you saying, "Well, you can treat the truth." That's great, guys. We're on the same team. We just want the truth.
We do too.
But we have got to. The three medical examiners that's now deceased, we can't go coroners. Of course, you can't. A coroner is an elected position, so we don't. I ain't gonna say we don't respect that position, but we don't respect their opinion because it doesn't take nothing but votes. There's no knowledge there. You've probably been to.
Well, I don't think Doug gains any votes by saying suicide. This thing.
You know something else? Dr. Hunsaker said in all he did. Probably hundreds, thousands of autopsies.
Probably now.
State police, he said, even back the ones he had done back in those days, he said the state police never, ever tried to pressure him to change his ruling. He's a brilliant man, genius. If you talk to him, Fred,
No,
you did.
I saw him on the news.
If you talk to him, though.
He says in his report, he had marked it undetermined. He says later on, he said, the state police knew, you know, now, it was undetermined. Nobody knew what it was. So that's why you had three other medical examiners to look at it. And then
They kept on trying to find one that would go there.
And then they decided, well, what you call Asher says that. And that's what Asher's a post commander, a captain, lieutenant colonel, and he don't have the gall. He says he went to a meeting. This is in his own book. You've read it.
He didn't.
Went to a meeting and said, but I didn't say nothing. Well, then, if you didn't say nothing, you're part of the problem.
Well,
If he didn't say nothing.
At least I can tell this. When he was a post commander in London, he tried. He knew when he was up there, and the commissioner up there wasn't going to change it. When he went to the meeting, the first meeting they were asking, he was there when they asked Hunsaker to change.
But instead of him standing up for Hunsaker, and he acted like him and Hunsaker was on the same page, he won't give up that retirement. He won't give up that job, that position. But it's important enough for him to years later say, I'll put this in my book.
Well, you know, he didn't put that. The book he read,
several more guys.
For that little piece.
GoPro kicked off the battery, and she had to put a new battery in. Then her phone.
Technology, man, is awful.
We had them, and then we got some visitors there, and they were trying to talk, and Sheila didn't realize her mic was on.
We're going to go through the other ones.
But you can hear Sheila and the lady back there talking up a storm while we're up there talking. Not on Jimmy and Johnny's part. They tried their best to answer our questions and all that. Guys, a couple of things. While I've got some time here, I had some notes wrote. The first one is forget the autopsy. Forget the manner of death. This has already been ruled a homicide.
There's no going back and investigating it now. There's no going back and trying to change that. That is done. Now let's find the murderer. What was the evidence 37 years ago? Not what people says now. Now people says, and you're going to see videos if you haven't already, of man's phone wasn't turned off. They called his wife.
The night that it happened, they called
the dispatcher, Marty Robinson, called his wife and said, Diane, we're not getting Johnny on the radio.
He's not answering.
Not answering you. Probably just making sure that he didn't go home already and forgot to call in. So she had a telephone. They called her on the phone that night. So that telephone was not disconnected. They had not been evicted. They had not received an eviction notice. They had no eviction. Nothing had been taken place. People can say anything they want to, speaking in the history now. Unless we see an eviction notice or something, a receipt from the sheriff's office where somebody paid to have an eviction notice served and so forth, that didn't happen. They were not 30, 60, or 90 days behind on rent if they was behind at all. Diane says they were not behind on nothing. Everything was fine. In this next video, probably since we didn't do it here, the next video, we're probably going to be describing. We'll probably go ahead and just do that right now. And Sheila's probably going to insert a video right here to show you that it is real. It's called Canoeing of the Head. And that's what happened to Johnny that night. They can say self-inflicted. We say somebody took his gun, put it right between his eyes, and pulled the trigger.
He didn't have time to react.
In one of these videos, I'm so hopeful that it shows up when Jimmy and Johnny are showing us how Johnny had laid down on the ground backwards and put the gun up there, and the gun was laying. His hands were back like how, Sheila?
Like this.
Like this. Because the person had a shotgun on him. He's got his hands raised in the air. They take his gun, shoot him right between the eyes. If Johnny had shot himself between the eyes, this gun would not have ended up back here in his hand like this, him laying on the ground. That's what you got. On the ground, open-handed. I'm holding my thumb over it.
Just to hold it, yeah.
To hold it, to keep the gun from falling. But the hand is up like this. It's completely opened. It's like just laid in there. Imagine now, guys, you all seen the video we did. Imagine a man doing this. He said he held it in his left hand. Johnny was right-handed. Held it in his left hand and pushed the trigger with his right thumb. Well, if that's correct and the gun was going to get hung up, then the gun would get hung up in the right hand. If his right thumb happened to get hung up in the, don't take my word for it. I could be wrong. This is what we come up with.
That's right.
Research it, play around with it, see what you all think. But would not, if you shot yourself like this, how's that recoil going to go? Boom. The gun goes away from you. The gun doesn't go with you, especially in the wrong hand and especially in an open hand. The only way that gun could have went with somebody is if that thumb was in that trigger guard and got hung up, and that would have been with the right hand.
Yeah.
So we can't explain it enough.
No.
Johnny's head was like that. She'll show some pictures on here, of course. This is not his.
Right.
But this skull is split all the way down. And that's what you call canoeing. Canoeing of the head. Canoeing of the head during war was spoken against in the Geneva Convention, from what I could find out. I'm no war expert. But I did research it, and it said that they put that in the Geneva Convention because they were going around, even the dead soldiers, they would walk over top and shoot them in the center of their head so their head would split open. Canoeing of the head. And they ruled that you can't do that just because they're dead, especially when they're dead, but they didn't like that. We talked there and it'd probably be in the next video. I probably should wait on it.
Okay.
But we talked about haloing. Johnny and Jimmy. Johnny and Jimmy talks about the halo effect. Oh, the halo's there. The halo, you can see it. When you see these pictures and you see this halo, you're going to know. And they may very well believe that, guys. Sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. I didn't see no halo. I seen brain scatter. I seen brain scatter. You're going to see that in a homicide or even a suicide. You're going to see it in either one.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it a halo if you want. There's brain scatter. When you fall 6 feet back, when you're 6 feet tall and you're standing erect,
Okay.
and you fall flat, you're shot right between the eyes and your body. You just fall flat over an incline. Now, this is not flat ground. That ditch goes down a good, probably 30, 45 degree angle. And his head was down here. Now, any of you ever go deer hunting? What's the first thing you do when you get your deer? You hang it up, cut its throat where it can bleed out. I know I'm graphic. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I said it was going to be graphic, but I want to explain some stuff. You hang your deer upside down and you cut its throat so it will bleed out. What's the difference in cutting a human being's throat or shooting them between the eyes and when they're falling back over an incline? Where's all the blood going to go? See, there was no reason to embalm Johnny. Johnny was drained. There was no blood left in Johnny. Johnny's downhill. Everything from his toes all the way through his body had drained out the top of his head. And what they're calling a halo and what I'm calling scatter is Johnny's. Now, in summary, in a suicide scene, the halo overhead refers to a specific pattern of blood and S or CSF. And that CSF stands for some kind of fluid leakage.
Okay.
See, somewhere along the way, we have got this halo. Google halo. Google human head halo. Google. There's a halo. There's a angel's halo.
Different type.
There is a halo that's in a MRI machine that you put on. It's called a halo to do an MRI for a brain scan.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many halo. There's a video game that comes up more than anything. Is some kind of crazy video game. It's called Halo.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that's called halo. But from what I could find, and I'm not a medical examiner, I'm not a pathologist, I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn, but this halo thing is where the fluids, the fluids leak together and make a pattern. And the pattern is usually on a absorbent surface, observed when cerebral spinal fluid mixes with blood on an absorbed surface. And they give a thing here like gauze, paper, clothing,
bedspreads, sheets, whatever, something like
and
that.
it makes a double ring. She'll show a picture of it. Sheets, exactly, babe. Cotton.
Okay.
Guys, there was a scatter, and we're going to show you a demonstration here at the end of this video. There was a scatter of brain. You're going to have that. Imagine a person being shot between the eyes. It's already done the damage, and at the same time, I mean, it's not like when you're shot, you stand there for 5 minutes or you lower yourself down trying to make sure you don't get hurt. When you're shot between the eyes and you're already laying backward and the force pushes you,
The percussion from the.
you're on the ground, and that head hit the ground with all the force that it could hit it with. That head didn't just lay down like on a pillow. That head had already had a gunshot, and in a matter of millimeters of a second, that head has hit that ground hard. So whatever damage that bullet didn't do, imagine, they said they took a bullet out at the funeral home. The bullet probably when they hit lodged it into the skull or the scalp? Who knows? See, that's something the coroner, or not the coroner, but the medical examiner should know. The basic skull fracture. So he got a lot of damage. Now, you're going to hear, and we'll go over this again probably, but Jimmy and Johnny says, well, he was straight out. He was straight. He had laid down on the ground and done that. Why would you lay down in the ditch and do it? If you was going to make it look like a S side and you had your lights and everything on, you think you wouldn't pull a couple of buttons off or do things like that? That man didn't have time to even get his hat on when he got out of his car, because the violators, the people he had pulled over, was already exiting their vehicle and he jumped out, or he knew who they were and didn't think it was necessary to put his hat on.
Yep.
They took him by surprise. They got the jump on him. They bushwhacked him. Leaked through the ears and the nose. All through here. Sheila's going to, I'm not going to read this or go over it. Sheila can just add it to the video. Local funeral director removes a bullet. A local funeral director. We asked Johnny, was he a physician? Was he a ME? Was he a... No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
But we don't feel this case was investigated, and we feel that Jimmy and Johnny were young then. We feel, what's the age limit of all the detectives? We still haven't heard from Lewis. We haven't never heard Lewis say that what he thought it was. We seen William Stewart's report, and William Stewart titles it murder. Some of them didn't want to speak up because they were getting ready to go from lieutenant to captain. They didn't want to make waves. Asher says he didn't speak up because he thought it was this big S side, but he went to the meeting in Lexington. But I sat there. I didn't say nothing. Wow. Until you're drawing. I feel you. So many questions, but nothing more than a rush to judgment, in our opinion. Prematurely called a S side, and it's just too hard to back up. Too hard to back up. You know, guys, on my computer here, everybody, Jimmy and Johnny seems to, and I'm not talking about Jimmy and Johnny. Them guys are, again, I'm just giving our opinion. See, some people are so used to seeing a chalk line, the outline of a body like that, they think, well, he was straight. He must have been laying down. Sheila will post a picture here of Mr. Couch. Mr. Couch. We'll have to use the one the state police gave us.
Right.
We don't want to use the one in color. There are some law enforcement agencies that actually gave pictures to the family that we have copies of now. That's better than the ones that Sheila and I took. Mm-hmm. They had better equipment, better cameras. But we won't put one of them, but we will put one of the ones that the state police have in their report. Look at Mr. Couch laying there, straight as an arrow.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, he's straight.
Yep.
He didn't have a leg bent up underneath him. He didn't, like you always see these chalk lines. Mm-hmm. Everything's not a chalk line. Everything's not TV. But was lying straight. All bodies don't look like a crime scene sketch. Maybe Huntsinker screwed up the autopsy so bad that the medical examiners had no choice but to be called in. I don't know that. I'm speculating. I'm speculating on Dr. Huntsinker the same way he speculated on 37 years later. You want to find them, you have to dig them up. That's speculation. That's an opinion. This is a medical doctor. This man, people pays attention to what he says. That is pure speculation. Fred McCoy's got a whole head full of hair. You know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I do that sometimes so people might understand how I can tell you anything. But when you go look at the proof, you say, whoa, well, what happened to him?
Don't be silly.
But what I'm saying here is Dr. Huntsinker says he never told nobody it was a S side. Dr. Huntsinker told WLEX on TV, on the news, that he ruled it undetermined. And he felt they knew how he was going to call, which way he was going, undetermined. He was going to go undetermined. When you go undetermined, you go that way until you find more evidence or somebody more experienced than you investigates it and looks at something. And they did. They looked at it. It went from undetermined to, hey, this is a homicide. Johnny says that they took them off the case. Frankfurt took them off the case and put other detectives on it. Okay. How long had they been detectives? I think they said they went in 79. So that was 88. 11 years later, or 9 years, whichever one it is.
9. Should be 9.
9 years. I'm sorry. My math is 9 years later. Was 9. How many homicides had Johnny investigated in 9 years? 9 years. They done that because they wanted to put more experienced police officers. Maybe that was insulting. Maybe that was insulting to Johnny and Lewis and Stewart. I don't know. Stewart called it a murder, so I don't know that they've taken Stewart off the case. Maybe it was insulting. Maybe it hurt their feelings. Maybe it got their feelings hurt. But to beat that, then they went on, somebody did and started a rumor on them. So that shows no matter how bad it is, it can always get worse because they went from, and I feel for them because them guys have been through it. Now listen, if it ever comes up and we've missed something, then that's on us.
Yeah.
We're the ones that's going to look like idiots. But we honestly, and we would call it in a heartbeat if we knew something. Ask me how many suicides. Help me do some research here, guys. I mentioned it to Jimmy and Johnny there that day. I'm not sure how those videos are going to turn out, so they'll be coming up. They'll be forthcoming, but I mentioned it. Let's see. How many, there's a couple of questions. How many suicides, and I hate to even refer to this or keep talking about a S-side because it's not. It's a homicide, but for the sake of argument, how many, let's find some medical examiners that says that they worked a case where somebody has committed S-side and they still had the 357 Magnum. I'm not talking about a 22. I'm not talking about a 38. I'm not talking about a 25. I'm talking about a 357 Magnum where they've still got the 357 Magnum in their hand holding it without a finger been through the trigger guard, without a thumb been through the trigger guard, without a, see, do some research. See how many homicides you can find, or suicides. Here's a S-side here and here. Sometimes they'll do this if they want to make it look like a homicide. Who does this? How awkward is that? Now, my second question there, guys, this is graphic. So if you would, please, family, forgive me, but I'm trying to give everybody what the state police is not giving us. I'm trying to give you something to go on. I'm trying to prove that it's not a S-side. And police officers out there, how many of you has ever worked a S-side where they had their eyes open? I'm sure there's probably a few, but what's the odds of the person's eyes being open, or in Johnny's case, eye? Night photos. This was in the 80s, 1988. Nighttime photos. A halo. We're using flash bulbs back in them days, guys. We had these little 35 millimeter cameras, film, that you'd run to Photomat or Walmart or somewhere like that. I don't know if we went to Magic Mart, didn't we? Back home.
I don't know where it was.
I don't think we didn't have Walmarts back then, I don't believe. Not in our area.
Maybe CVS or something.
CVS, babe.
Seems like.
But you would take your film and get it developed.
Mhm.
You had a 35 millimeter camera and you had a flash bulb on it. You talk about orbs. You talk about for you ghost hunters, those people out there that ghost hunt, likes to see if they can see ghosts in these. Back in the old days, you could take those flash bulbs and flash them in certain areas or 2 or 3 at a time and come up with all kinds of orbs. Or is that what they're called? I believe for these
Is
ghost
what you're talking
hunters.
about. Yeah.
Something in the camera that looks like a ghost.
Okay.
You think a 35 millimeter camera with a flash bulb, 2 o'clock in the morning, you think it's going to be as clear and as accurate as what cameras are today? Why is it that we haven't heard Hunt Sinker? All we're hearing is hearsay. So no disrespect to nobody, but some of them says Hunt Sinker said this, Hunt Sinker says that. We've never heard Hunt Sinker say there was a halo that come from where he laid on the ground and done this and that, because he says he did not commit that. But why hasn't he commented on the halo? If it was there,
Good point.
a halo if people wants to, but it's nothing more than overspray. It's from being shot, and it's from being fell back, hit that ground. What wasn't already done. When you see these skulls here, not Johnny's, but when you see them, it comes open. Everything in there comes out. Not just Johnny, any S-side or homicide, and especially laying downhill and the back of your head is open. You're open. It's going to come out. Doesn't mean it's a halo. It means that he hit that ground so hard when that head busted open, everything come out. Sorry, babe. I know. Could not find one case 357 still in the hand with a Magnum round. I've looked. I'm going to call some corners. I'm going to call some MEs. See, corners, guys, I don't mean nothing against a county coroner.
Right.
County coroners have a important job to do. They have a important task, and I respect that. But there's a limit of how far their knowledge goes on removing bullets from a skull when you're going for an autopsy. That was uncalled for. On a powder residue test at the funeral home, instead of letting them do it at the morgue, that's uncalled for by somebody that I'm sure they don't do powder residue test every day or every week or every month or every 6 months. It's just something you don't do a lot of. You'll hear Johnny and me and Jimmy talking up there because they bring up the powder residue test. Well, there was a powder residue and he had, guys, it don't matter what he had on him. That man's just been shot. That man has just been murdered. Whether somebody else done it or whether he done it, he's going to have powder residue. And he's going to have it anyway if somebody didn't wash their hands that has handled that gun. So we don't put a lot of faith in the powder residue. A powder residue test is usually not for that person. It's more for the person that's with them, the person that found them, the person that's what you would want. I come in and there he was. Okay, was you anywhere near? Did you touch the gun? I ain't touched nothing. Okay, if you don't care, come over here. Then they do the powder residue, and then it shows up. Thought you didn't touch the gun. Oh, I ain't touched nothing. You got powder residue. How'd that happen? Now you got some splaining to do. And that's where a powder residue, I'm not saying it's not used on S-sides or homicides on the victim. Victim just got shot. He's going to have residue, especially if his hands are up here. And all of a sudden, what if, this training gun, what if They took it out of the holster and brought it up. He's already got his hands up for that person, and they brought it up. About that time, he sees the gun and starts reaching for it. He knows they're going to do it, and he reaches about that time. Is he going to have residue? Of course. A residue test is for the other person or people that's around to see if they've fooled with guns or if they was there when the gun was fired. Almost done, guys. No MRI, no CAT scan. Who do we blame that for? Who's to blame? Did Dr. Huntsinker do an MRI? Did he do a CAT scan? Did he put Johnny's head back together? Put everything back in place? Put him a cranial cap back there and put him back together where he could look and take something and say, hey, that bullet went up. Must have been a shorter person. See? Johnny was 6 foot something, 6'1" maybe. Another fellow that we suspect is only 5'7", 5'8", 5'9". I think 5'7". I think I'm 5'7". Short guy. If I'm going to shoot a 6'1" guy, when I shoot him between the eyes, I'm still going to be pointing up. That means when they run this rod to trace the trajectory, it's going to be going out the other side, upward. If Johnny done it, if a person's going to do that to themselves, and he held it in his left hand, and he pulled it with the right, and he's like that, look at the barrel.
Straight.
I can't tell, but it's probably going to be pretty straight.
It is straight.
He wouldn't shoot himself like this or like this. A lot of questions. A lot of questions. I saw no halo, just splatter, just as the 3 other medical examiners saw. They say he was on the ground. Jimmy and Johnny said, well, he was on the ground.
Yeah.
He was on the ground when he done it to himself. He was on the ground. Well, guys, I don't mean to sound smart. I'm not being smart. I'm sorry. But if somebody blows your brains out, you're going to be on the ground too. Whether it's done on the ground or whether somebody done it to you, you're still going to be on the ground.
That's where you're still going to end up. Yeah.
How many people lay downhill to do that? How many people?
Yeah.
A man who was shot in the forehead fell backwards to the ground. That's what you've got here. Head trauma from gunshot and hitting the ground. I see that, but I just got a note there, and we've had some tax people contact us, guys. There was a comment on some taxes being owed. We haven't got no evidence either way yet, confirmed, because that ain't something Diane would even know. But Diane and Johnny didn't owe no taxes. So if this is true, and Jimmy and Johnny over the years have seems to have gotten a lot of information from Johnny Edrington's ex-wife. Now, you've heard that old saying, and I'm speculating and I'm giving my opinion, but there's nothing like a woman scorned or something.
Scorned, yeah.
There's some kind of saying. And I think Lisa was upset at Johnny because they had gotten divorced. And after that, he did get married again. Never had nobody pregnant before then, hadn't been dating, hadn't had an affair, nothing that we can prove, nothing that anybody stepped out and said, hey, yeah, so it wasn't true. So a lot of the things that's been told were things that's not true. They're not accurate. They're not correct. And for a dead man and a dead man's family to have to endure that, it's not right. It's not right. You wouldn't want your family been talked about like that or put down, just like Jimmy and Johnny. Look what they've been through over the years. Rumors are terrible. This person told us, it ain't just a person. We had several tax people, CPAs, and they were married for 5 years, Lisa and Johnny. I think the taxes go back 5 years when you're audited and such, or back then they did. Lisa would have been as responsible for the taxes to IRS as Johnny was. So Lisa would have, or she would be able to get something to show that if it's true. If Johnny was $25,000 back on his taxes, then that means they had been married 5 years. That means Lisa, because from the way we understand it, they could only go back 5 years then. I don't know what it is today, but at the time they could go back 5 years and audit you. So that would have been within 5 years that they had been married. From what we understand, Lisa was working at a bank, so she was working. She was a cashier. You're going to see Johnny's check. Have you done posted Johnny's check in another video?
I think so. It's in another video, but yeah.
In Johnny's check, look there at his taxes. You can see where they're withholding taxes.
So he wasn't garnished. His pay wasn't
Oh,
garnished
no.
for back taxes.
It would have been
nothing.
on there garnish where they've been garnished, but he was paying taxes. He wasn't claiming zero. He wasn't putting on there so he could get more money back. They were withholding taxes. Maybe where she was working, maybe she didn't pay taxes so she could get a bigger paycheck. Some people does that. You'll get your payday and then you have to scrounge at the end of the year to pay your taxes. And we cannot thank Jimmy and Johnny. I'm sorry that we're not agreeing with them. We did agree with them on one thing. We don't think they had nothing to do with anything bad, anything concerning Johnny Edrington's death. We don't think they had anything to do with that. So we do say that. We're still not convinced, never will be convinced. Now that we've seen the pictures, sometimes you can see what you want to see in pictures.
Interesting.
But we do appreciate them. We can't brag on them enough. And you guys that wants to say ill things and stuff, please, if you don't care, don't do it on our page towards people without proof. Since there's no proof of nothing, there's no need in bad mouthing or dogging people. You have no proof. If we don't have proof, as hard as we've worked, then surely you don't have nothing but the rumors also. So rumors are not. It's funny how nobody wants a rumor on them, but boy, we sure spread them on other people. And that's nothing but a rumor, as far as Sheila and I can tell. We'll probably have one more video left. We'll catch you then. And babe, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I've hogged that whole.
No, this is more your territory than mine. So.
Well, I'm definitely. We're more convinced now than we have ever been. Johnny Edrington was murdered.
Yeah. Now that
Johnny Edrington has been slandered as bad as the Phelps brothers. And that's sad. Johnny Edrington's family. Doug Asher, a man of that position, I feel you, should have either raised heck when all that was going on, if he was so adamant about it, or let it go. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. Good thing.
No, but she's going to put a demonstration on here, and you guys can make comments on the demonstration. And Jimmy and Johnny, if I've said something or typed something or anything, and you guys want to respond to, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I just don't want people. Sometimes people get ill and mean, and sometimes I delete people that says things or just totally not true. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but we'd like to see proof with it. But
killed a man. You'll stand trial for it. Now get back. Move. Turn him loose.
He said to turn loose of him.
I'm not. So go home.
I swear to God. Law Dog, you don't step aside, we'll tear you apart.
You die first, get it? Your friends might get me in a rush, but not before I make your head into a canoe. You understand me?
He's bluffing. Let's rush him. No. He ain't bluffing.
You're not as stupid as you look, Ike. Now tell him to get back.
Go on now, get back.
Go on!
Just getting your feet.
I know.
Okay.
guys, we're going to do a demonstration
There you go.
using some watermelons.
Okay.
Either before this video or after this video, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
But right now, let's just do the test.
Experiment. Okay.
Experiment.
Okay.
We're going to go up 6 feet high. Johnny was 6 feet tall. We're going to go 6 feet high and let this watermelon fall the length of his body where he would have fallen at. So his head would have fallen somewhere right in this area. His head would have fallen somewhere right in this area. And that's where I'm going to let the melon fall.
Okay.
And we're going to try to see what happens.
Whoa.
Now, this right here just about simulates, without being too graphic, but that simulates what Johnny's head looked like.
Ooh.
It's called canoeing.
Okay.
His head had parted, his skull had parted with that bullet.
Okay.
But when he hit the ground, what they're calling haloing is exactly what you see right here.
Okay.
Whether you're shot laying on the ground or whether you're falling from that length, you're going to have that.
Okay.
Now, I've got 2 of these,
Yeah.
so I think the first one proved the point, but I'm going to go ahead with the second. And about the same difference is the first.
Yeah.
Now imagine, whoa.
He doesn't want to waste it. What are you doing?
Wow.
Those were good watermelons.
Imagine already been shot between the eyes and then falling straight back. You've got your hands in the air, and if you look at those videos,
We've got a weapon.
if you look at the videos, why don't you just raise the camera up, face it on me. And let's
Now that we're done?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you are.
Now come right over here and stand.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay.
Now say this person's with a shotgun here and got my hands up. That one reaches over and takes my gun, pulls it out, and as soon as he brings it up, boom.
Look where your hands are. Your hands
Shoots
are
me
up.
between the eyes. Look where my hands are. If you'll look at the pictures, when Johnny's laid back, it falls directly back. Now, you'll hear one of the Phelps brothers, or both, say, he's laying straight back. He laid down on the ground because his body's straight. Well, he just fell over an incline. He's on an incline. His head's laying downhill. He just went back with the force of a 357. So he's laying on the ground with his hands like this. Now, somewhere along the way, somebody took a gun and put it in his hand and had it facing him. No thumb in it, no finger in the trigger guard, not hung up. They just laid the gun there pointing at him.
Right.
To make it look like it's self-inflicted. It wasn't. That case is closed. That boat don't float. Man had his hands in the air, fell back exactly like you see him right now, and that's the way he fell on the ground and landed. Not only did he have a bullet hole that had just penetrated his skull and done the canoe effect, his eye was open. One eye, the other eye was not there, but one eye was open, wide. If a person does self-inflicted, I've worked hundreds, I want to say hundreds, maybe more. When a person self-inflicts, they close their eyes. Don't ask me why. I guess they don't want to see it coming. They close their eyes. Now, Johnny didn't. Johnny's eyes wide open, his eye. Could be because he's took some traumatic damage to his head. Trauma. Could be because the skin's gone. Could be because the forehead is pulled back.
And it also could be as the speed that the perpetrator
See you.
pulled and fired that quickly. He didn't have time to.
Exactly what she said. what she said. That's the truth. That's exactly what happened. I'm telling you the hypotheticals. I'm telling you what the negative people or the people that wants to believe a certain way are going to say. Well, this happened or that happened. Anything's possible.
Right.
Anything's possible. You know, somebody said you're wrong on clearing Jimmy and Johnny. We could be. We could be. We're not scientists. We're not fortune tellers. We don't think we are. There's no evidence. But just like this right here, if you take us for the truth on something else, you got to take us for the truth on this. Why would we lie on either one? Just what she said. The guy reached over, got his gun, pulled it up there. Johnny's got his hands up. Guy's got a shotgun on him. He's thinking, I'm going to talk him out of it. We'll work it out. No, who expects to die that fast?
Yeah.
When he reached and got his gun, he goes from here, bang. Johnny's eye.
He didn't have time to react or anything.
He didn't have time to react. He's looking directly at his executioner. We'll finish up back at the apartment. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll catch you on the next one. God bless, and bye.